Welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. I am your host, James. Just with me today is Mr. John Cameron. John?
Yes, James.
Well, we're going to talk about one of my least favorite topic to discuss here ever. You know, we've kind of avoided this topic as much as possible. So we're talking Trump again, and as all you know, I hate talking Trump. I'm just bored by the whole thing, quite frankly. But he was found guilty on the charges of, I don't even know what the heck the exact charges, 34 of the charges that they had him on.
He was found guilty of 34 charges of hiding something that wasn't illegal.
Yeah.
And the judge instructed jurors pretty specifically to say that they didn't have to believe that he was guilty of a crime to find him guilty.
Of hiding a crime?
Of hiding a crime that isn't a crime. And there's no, even the New York Times says that the legal approach in this case was, they didn't use the word creative. They might have used the word tenuous. So what is being called by people on the right and by people who are objective about what's going on is lawfare. You know, the last one, they found him guilty of fraud. You know, the judge decided that all the professional people who evaluated the worth of his property were wrong. He assigned his own values to his property and said he committed fraud and fined him $380 million. So, and this one is found him guilty of falsifying records to do something that is basically not a crime. So I have no idea what's going on. The man's a liar, and he's crazy, and he's unpredictable. But you know what's being done to him by the powers that we let be is despicable. And so if it was anybody else, everybody on the planet would be up in arms. And that's a problem. And I was going to send in this issue, is that people on the left have decided that he is so bad that anything they can do to get him is okay.
Yeah, so they can become worse than him because he's so bad, and they're not going to.
Yeah.
They have no desire to see how that they are losing their moral authority.
Just calling him a monster doesn't mean you get to. Thinking that he's a monster doesn't mean that you can or should do monstrous things to get the monster. And who's to decide that you're not the monsters? So this is just anybody that's not disgusted about American politics and the choices that we are left with to supposedly lead our country. These people couldn't lead you to the bathroom. I mean, and nobody would hire either one of them to clean their office.
No, they wouldn't. I would.
Yeah. Well, it's insane. And
Yeah, it
one of these clowns, either Trump, insane liar, or Biden, mentally incompetent liar, is going to be president of the United States.
Again. Not
Again.
just once. Again,
Yeah,
John.
again.
It's again. It's like we're doing this again. I can't believe it.
I'm almost thinking this is the rest of the universe is watching a TV show, and it's a comedy, and we're the show, you know, and they're just pulling these strings.
You know, I wouldn't mind so much, John, if I thought this was how all of the powerful were going to be treated. Every single one of them going to go ahead and get
As they should
a
be.
legal rectal exam.
Yeah.
And with creative legal creative legal thinking.
But some of them are untouchable, which is what I despise. I mean, Hillary Clinton's untouchable. Why? Obama's untouchable. Why?
Well, that's
the
the
head
thing.
of the CIA is untouchable. Why? The head of the FBI is untouchable. Why? The Kamala Harris, the vice president, withheld exculpatory evidence in 2 murder trials, but because of absolute immunity for prosecutors, she's not going to be held accountable.
Yeah,
and we elect these people.
I know, John. Remember, the FBI said, "Oh, Hillary Clinton's guilty. We're just not going to bother to prosecute her." And then you're prosecuting other people with creative legal theories.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, I just want everybody to be treated the same. I don't
Yeah.
care what your standard is.
Yeah.
If your
People
standard is really
are
low,
not equal.
then
Nobody
really
is born equal. Some people are smarter, some people work harder, some people are luckier, some people are taller, some people are shorter, but they should be treated equally under the eyes of the law. And this is not happening.
not even close. Not even
Yeah.
close. Think about other things that weren't happening equally under the eyes of the law there, Mr. John. COVID guidelines caused millions to suffer, and now Fauci admits that there was never any science behind it. They just kind of made it all up. It all just kind of evolved over the course of time. The 6 feet social distancing, they made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says he doesn't know where that came from. Yeah, he doesn't recollect where that came from. He doesn't recollect.
All the moral busybodies, the finger poking, all the goofy video graphs that people put together showing why 6 feet is so important instead of 5 feet or 7 feet, right? All those things, they're all a load of BS. And yet it takes 3.5 years later, 4 years later, now we're all coming out telling us, oh yeah, we just made it all up. And never mind, we're not going to be held accountable because there's
And
no point to it.
the disgusting part of this, folks, is it says COVID guidelines cause millions to suffer. Pain trickles down, and civilized countries were inconvenienced, and we now have $10 trillion more debt. But probably 100 million poor people died because of the lunacy that we let happen here. Let's just be conservative and say 20 million poor people died. Much of the world, poverty in the world has been going down at a wonderful rate, even in the poorest countries. And because of the economic brakes that were put on in our countries, the poorest of the poor became poorer, and they suffered, and they died. And nobody's going to be held accountable for this. So again, I'm disgusted by it. I'm disgusted by it.
And that's the real thing. They went out, they repeatedly lied to us. They made policies that destroyed people's lives, destroyed communities,
Businesses,
destroyed families, separated families because some people wouldn't, go along with what the government said, and so now families no longer talk to each other. They've destroyed so much over abject lives, and it's just. And we sat here and we told them none of this makes sense.
Yep.
I hate to say we told you so, but we told you so.
No, well, let me look at the camera as well, and we told you so.
Yeah,
there's the camera. We told you so. That at the beginning they threw out 100 years of science around how you deal with a communicable disease, and treated everyone from infants to people 100 years old as if they had the same risk factors. And then they picked winners and they picked losers in the economy. And again, back to the point, the poor in the world suffered the most. And suffered the most.
And John, it's actually even worse than that because Anthony Fauci, again, gave misleading answers about the funding of all this kind of stuff.
No, not misleading. He lied.
He lied about who was actually funding this stuff, what they were doing. Yeah. Remember, he said, "Oh, it's not gain-of-function research." Well, then what is it?
It is gain-of-function.
It is gain-of-function research. Yeah. They were paying for it. We did know. They lied about it, and how many millions suffered from it? Yeah. Not just directly suffered and indirectly, as we were just talking about, the economic consequences. Yeah. It's these people, their God complex is killing people.
When is he going to go to jail?
He won't. He won't. Lied to Congress, lied to the American people, and yet he won't prosecute him for nothing, even though they could clearly can.
Well, lying to Congress, although it shouldn't be illegal because Congress lies to us all the time, is illegal. And the House of Representatives has asked the Department of Justice to bring charges against Hunter Biden and James Biden for lying to Congress. I mean, absolute proof that they lied to Congress. And now Fauci has lied to Congress, and the one person, Rand Paul, has been holding Fauci's feet to the fire ever since this started. So bless him. Pointing out that the man's lying and that his science is wrong, and that, the guy said on TV, "I am science. I am the science." Okay, if you're the science, then you're culpable.
Yeah. Why aren't you being held responsible? If we created that much death and destruction, someone would be holding us accountable, would they not? We'd be getting sued at the very least. And it's not even happening. Last week, John, we talked about the Libertarian Convention. This week,
the circus that it was.
The circus that it always is, John. There wasn't a naked guy this year, so that's an improvement.
Oh, was he ill?
I don't know. He just wasn't there. But Richard has something to say about the after effects. Chase Oliver, our presidential candidate, and that's a potential solution to all these problems we talk about every week. So let's hear what Richard has to say.
I want to hear this. I want to hear what Richard has to say.
Hi, this is Richard Fields with Report from the Fields. A couple of weeks ago in this commentary, I mentioned that one of Libertarian Party presidential 2024 nominee Chase Oliver's challenges would be gaining cooperation from the Mises Caucus-dominated Libertarian National Committee. It looks like that is happening. Oliver espouses the traditional classical liberal philosophy of libertarianism. He is reasonably pro-immigration, free trade, supports a woman's right to choose on abortion, and as an out-gay man, opposes the cultural wars attacks on people who identify as anything other than straight heterosexual. The Mises Caucus is not any of those things. Many of them are closet Trump supporters on the lesser of two evils theory. This was glaringly illustrated by LNC Chair Angela McArdle's comments during a live stream on June 3rd. She said, and I quote, "I endorse Chase Oliver as the best way to beat Joe Biden. Get in, loser. We are stopping Biden." That's what I think. That's what I think this campaign is about. She went on to effectively endorse Trump, saying, "Donald Trump said he's going to put a libertarian in a cabinet position. He came out to our and spoke to us at our convention. He said he's a libertarian. He has basically endorsed this." She added, "I'm going to work very aggressively, especially in blue states, to make sure Oliver has the support he needs from the National Party. I encourage people to use the Chase Oliver campaign to try and pull protest votes from the left." She actually put on a clown nose and said, I know, it's a total clown show thing. Well, I'm 100% here for that clown show." I'm not. When McArdle invited Trump and RFK Jr. to speak at the Libertarian National Convention, I said the LP is beclowning itself. I did not know how literal that statement actually would turn out to be. Trump and Biden, or the functionaries who managed to keep Biden erect most of the time, are both evil, equally evil. There is no purpose in the LP effectively trying to change the outcome of the election to the lesser of two evils when the lesser doesn't exist. Trump is evil on trade, immigration, drugs, overspending, and a whole lot more. Biden is equally evil on those same issues and also a whole lot more. The correct function of a political party is to win elections. To that end, Oliver's goal of getting 3 or 4% of the vote is too modest. The goal, at the very least, should be for Oliver and Kennedy, between the two of them, to get enough votes to win a state and force the election into the House of Representatives. Then we could all get out the popcorn. I'm Richard Fields, and that's this week's Report from the Fields. See you again next week.
John, this just makes me want to slam my head into this table here we've got. Just repeatedly kind of slam my head into the table, hoping that something would change.
Don't hurt your back. Don't do that. You're too tall to slam your head into this table. Now, I could do it.
Oh,
it still hurt
man.
my back. Yeah.
When are we going to understand that us engaging in the culture wars that the other two parties are engaging in will always make us lose? We're never going to win if we play their games. And the only way for us to ever win, to ever get past our 2-3%, is to stop playing their games.
Yep.
But yet we continually and repeatedly play their games. We use their language. We try to capture their movements. We stick our fingers in the air and use their language, trying to capture
which way there's wind blowing.
which way the wind is blowing. Yeah,
yeah.
it's silly, but yet we continually do it. And The problem is our party is run by activists rather than representatives. And until we actually have a party run by representatives, people who will represent the entire libertarian philosophy, not their slice of it, we are going to continue to have this problem.
Well, I think that the problem is, I know we need to get on to some other subjects, but you can't name a problem that we have right now and tell me that the government didn't cause it or make it worse. Yet people are so used to the idea that government has to be here that they can't even conceive of people making their own choices. So I said, I was talking to somebody the other day about libertarianism or classic liberalism, and he said, well, what about roads? And I said, there are toll roads all over the place. The roads that work the best in the Bay Area, anywhere else, are maintained and paid for and charged by the little box you got in the window of your car, and you're charged based upon how heavy the traffic is and all the rest of that, and it works fine. And then in Sacramento, we have the multiple use lanes, which are empty, completely empty, while there's gridlock in the other 4 lanes. And so roads. What about schools? I mean, you really want the government involved in educating your, and the government writing a license for who can do your health care? I mean, just go on and on and on. Yet, because they've stuck their fingers in everything, people can't conceive of a world without them, and we need to do that soon, or they're actually going to destroy this world.
Yeah, well, before too long, John, they're going to have us convinced that we can't learn to walk without a government educator teaching us how to walk.
Program.
Yeah, it's going to happen before too long.
Yeah.
It will happen because you're right. They don't know how to stop. Activists just don't know how to stop. They will always have something else to do because we always need to increase our budgets. Nobody is greedier than the government, and government workers want to increase their budgets and secure their positions and make themselves feel good just like anybody else.
I love that Thomas Sowell quote, and I'm misquoting him because I don't remember all of any quotes, which is, why am I greedy when I want to keep the money that I've earned, but you're not greedy when you want to take it from me and give it to somebody else? And so I just don't understand how people can't see the obvious.
People who want free stuff complain about other people being greedy. It is kind of a hilarious thing. So one of the issues with libertarians could actually help solve is the immigration issue. And Biden he's pretending to do something about it, let's just say, just in time for the election. Imagine that. He's issuing an order tightening the asylum process after insisting for months, years, that Congress needs to be the one to do this. Now he's stroked a pen and he says he can do this. Whether he can or not.
Who held his hand and moved it over the?
It's the auto pen. You know, it's the auto pen does it.
Auto pen.
But this is the thing. Unless they actually deal with the incentives, the welfare states, all the money and housing and food that they get, you're not going to solve this problem, right? You can have open borders, but you can't have open borders and a welfare state.
Well, and there's another goal, the goal of the people, the open society and all the rest of these people is to have an awful lot of people come into this country and be a burden to it and crash it. And I don't know why they want that to happen, but the problem with all of this is that even if they come in, that immigrants, whether legal or illegal, historically have always gone in and taken the crappiest jobs and worked really hard. And there are people who come in and work the system and get on welfare and all the rest of those. But those are I would call them government-sponsored illegals. But the people, I mean, I don't know how many illegal people of Hispanic origin there are in the state of California, but if you kicked them all out, the state would collapse. I mean, nobody would do any of the work that nobody else wants to do because they're doing it, But the fact that you go in and you say, oh, well, now we need to put them into this massive bureaucracy or medical system so that we can ring the register for our consultants and our bureaucrats and our trade unions and all the rest of that. That's the problem.
That's the real reason all of that happens,
yeah.
So we were talking about the economy a little bit here as we go in here. It's kind of a strange segue in here, but software stocks got pummeled the other day. and after some troubling earning reports. And the reason I brought this up is because I keep hearing from people in the left they talk about record profits, companies having record profits, but there's only really a handful of companies having record profits, and there will always be a company who thrives during downtimes. There will always be a handful, but the reality is most of them are not.
Yeah.
Most of them are struggling, and even if you had a good quarter, or even last year was a good year, doesn't mean next year is going to be. And we're actually starting to find that out. You know, there's a reason all these layoffs happened last year, because they saw what was coming down the road, that the economy was going to tighten up, that inflation was going to hurt everybody's bottom line, and if you don't do something about it now, you're talking bankruptcy in 3 years rather than just layoffs.
Well, and you know, you have the boom and bust cycle. I don't know if you remember. Well, you do remember. You've been around long enough to remember the first internet bubble. You know, where all these stocks they made up all these numbers to try to figure out how to justify, you know, paying exorbitant multiples of non-existent profits. Like I remember buying puts on Yahoo when it was selling for like $280 a share or something. And you know, it's garbage. And now you have NVIDIA, is that how you say it, which has gone up like 1,000% in the last year, because they're making chips with margins that nobody else can attain, that are used for AI. Anybody says that we have a business model that allows us to produce a product at a lower price that nobody will be able to match is a fool, because everybody else is completely free to put their capital and their brain together to do exactly the same process that they are. So you've got NVIDIA, which went from nothing to now $3 trillion worth, making a whole lot of money for people who bought that stock, you know, what, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But one of these days,
it always happens, right? Sears used to be bigger than Amazon, and now Sears is essentially out of business.
They had sold their best brand was Craftsman, and somebody else owns it. You know, and you used to be able to go to Sears and get anything, and you had the Sears catalog delivered to your house, and you'd go through it.
You could literally have your house shipped to you, and a kit house, right, shipped to you, and build a Sears house 100 years ago, and they still exist. They're perfectly solid houses. They're not like.
And Montgomery Ward.
Yeah, same thing, but they're all, because business cycles end. Companies don't last 50 years, which is why, you know, this thing, I'm going to go work for a company for 50 years and then go retire. It's dumb, because your company likely is not going to last 50 years as a profitable company.
There are some exceptions.
Yes, there are. Yeah, but you have to be lucky to find them, right?
IBM.
I wouldn't plan for it, but IBM went down and then back up, and they're still not the old IBM. They're not the market powerhouse they used to be.
Nor will they ever be, because they didn't follow it. I mean, you look at what happened with AT&T and Bell Labs and all the rest of that. They invented the world, and the government wouldn't let them patent their inventions and keep them, you know, because AT&T would in essence own the world now if they could, and on and on and on. So anybody that thinks that they've got a lock and their business model is going to work and last forever, you know, eventually that doesn't happen. Somebody will come in and compete and replace them.
Yeah, that's, you either have to evolve or die.
Yeah.
All right, so California lawmakers, John, this is one for your heart, John.
Oh.
A California lawmaker wants to prohibit the use of NDAs in state lawmaking process. And the question we had before the show, well, why the heck was this ever allowed to begin with?
For our readers who aren't, do we have a live camera on?
Yeah, you're on camera.
Non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one you're probably most aware of is the one that the porn star signed not to talk about Trump and then violated. So my question would be, why does this kind of contract, it is a contract really, why is it used in the interrelationship between lobbyists and legislatures? Why are people signing these documents to keep things secret? Why is that legal?
Yeah, how is that not a violation of the Brown Act?
How did it start in the first place? That's what I want to know. I don't ever remember seeing something come up on the ballot that said, would you like lobbyists, the unions and the business interests and all the rest of the people that run the government behind closed doors to sign a secret agreement about something? I want it all to be out in the open. I want it to be on the internet so I can go read it, word for word.
Yeah, remember, these are the people. This is California. We're complete Democrats. These are the people who complain about the outsized influence of lobbyists. They complain about lobbyists. They complain about money, except when it's theirs. Right? When it's
So
their
would
lobbyists.
you remember who the lawmaker was that wants to prohibit the use of it?
Is it Gallagher again? Is it James Gallagher?
Is he
He's a Republican.
oh.
And it's a Republican who's done it. I don't know if it's Gallagher, but it sounds like something he would do. But
Yeah,
it's one of those handful of Republicans, which is why it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And let's be clear, the Republicans don't really care about it. They care about it because it's a way to get at Democrats at the moment. If the Republicans had done this and they were in charge, they'd be doing the same thing.
No.
So this is one of these
Well,
oppositional
heaven forbid they
politic moves.
actually
They don't actually care, but it's
actually
good
get
oppositional
in power
politics.
and run the state because it's such a mess where we are and nobody can fix it.
Well,
So,
sure you
yeah.
can fix it. You take the chainsaw to it.
Well, no, I agree. Do the melee.
Do the
Yeah,
melee.
Do the
You
melee. By the way, he's hiring or not hiring, firing 50,000 public employees. Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
say that's a start.
It's a start.
There's like 10,000 people that work for the county and city of Sacramento. That might just be the county alone. What do they do? What do they do?
I don't know, John. Push paper? It's hard to know. It's hard to know. All right, so we got a minute and a half left. John Paga. And Paga might be
You'll
on there.
have to do this one because my brain will explode
Oh
if
man,
I talk
it's
about
been
it.
a long day, so this is going to be interesting. Okay, so Paga is essentially where an employee can sue his employer for some kind of violation, employment violation, but he cannot, not just for himself, he can sue for other employees, or his lawyer can sue for the state.
On
So essentially,
behalf of the government.
on behalf of the government, without the government ever being involved, and it only applies to employment law. So yet again, our California legislator is making it insanely difficult to operate just a normal piece of business. And let's remember, the employee that this person wants to doesn't have to agree. He can think, you're crazy, their boss is great, this thing is fine, I don't want nothing to do with your lawsuit, but they can sue for you anyway. So they're actually speaking for people who don't necessarily want to be spoken for. And they're patting themselves on the back, claiming their moral authority, and
their legal fees.
and their legal fees. Well, remember, it's the taxpayer at this point. It's either the taxpayer who will pay legal fees, or it's going to be the business, which meant, back again, end consumer pays all costs, which means you and me pay all these legal fees, which goes back to inflation. It's all back to right back to economics, John.
Should we close the show with, right before we say, remember to love everybody, should we say, we told you so? And then?
We told you so and love
and then love
everybody. Yeah, well then, there it is, John. We love you. We told you so and love everybody. We are out of time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here tonight, John. Thank everybody in there for working hard. Have a good night. Please remember to love everybody. And we told you so.
And love everybody.